Raheem Jarbo, a.k.a. Mega Ran, is a lot of things. Aside from being a rapper, the Phoenix-based artist is a former teacher, an author, a self-proclaimed weirdo, and recently, a father. Much of Jarbo's two-decade career has been dedicated to video game rap, whether it's creating music for specific games or rapping about video games and gaming-related topics. One thing remains constant throughout Jarbo's discography: he doesn't swear when he raps. So it's not totally out of left field that Mega Ran released a children's album. It came out yesterday. He's with me to talk about Buddy's Magic Toy Box. And Raheem, let's walk through the process of your latest project. You have a son who's almost 2. So what led you to saying, you know what, I make music, I could make music for kids?
Yeah, I think we were just listening to a bunch of children's music. He loves music, so when he hears something, a fun beat or something catchy, he just jumps right in on it. I didn't really love a lot of the music we were playing for him. I was like, maybe I should try something, just as an alternative, not thinking like, I could do it better. I felt like some of the stuff was lacking a little substance. So I decided to get to work, and I had a really hard time getting started, as a rap artist for my whole career. Not to say that, my music has been clean. I've never, made music that was explicit in any way, but rapping for a completely different audience. As an artist, as a writer, you're trying to be cutting edge. You're trying to use all the tools in your toolbox, But for kids, you kind of got to break it down and make it a lot more simple. And where I've grown up in hip hop, that was like a no-no. Oh, you can't dumb it down. You can't simplify, and it's like, that's exactly what I need to do. So it was a real challenge. Like, I found myself kind of battling myself, being like, what if this doesn't work? Like, what if it doesn't sound good? Maybe this isn't, something I can do. And I just kind of had to relax myself, and I had I had a bit of a rule to myself where anything that made me smile was a go. I wanted these records to make me smile and to make the kids smile. And that's really it. After that, the rest was easy.
So you mentioned some of the challenges about the lyrics, but I'm curious about the music itself, because kids' music, I would imagine, never having produced any myself, is a different kind of thing to produce than grown-up music.
Yeah, typically a little slower, so that the words can be heard and repeated. I noticed that not a lot of super fast stuff or double time or things like that happening. Really complex layers with melodies aren't really happening. So yeah, you do have to put yourself in a different mindset as a producer.
Did you use your son as like a focus group?
Oh, absolutely. He's heard every song from beginning to end when it was just me humming melodies. The songs he loves have like a repeatable sound, like a noise. Bop, 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 or boom, bap. He is all about it.
Well, and one of the songs on the album, The Story of Rap, has that exactly what you were describing. It has not just sort of repeated verses, the beginnings of each verse are the same two lines at the very beginning, but also kind of a sound that is very repeatable that kids, even who can't talk, I would imagine many of them could probably say out loud.
In the parks and the basements in NYC in the year of 1973. Once upon a time there was a really great DJ, and he had a bunch of records that he loved to play. They went boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, boom, bap, boom.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about that when I did it, but he instantly caught on. He was boom, bap, boom, boom, bap, before he was even talking. So that was really cool. And that really was a light bulb moment for me. Like, oh, wait, I can utilize sound.
What were you thinking in terms of the kinds of issues, topics, subjects you wanted to write about? Because it kind of runs the gamut on this album.
Oh, yeah. I listened to a ton of children's music before getting this, and I wrote down a bunch of notes, like things I wanted kids to be able to pull out of this. When I used to be a teacher, my favorite class was character class. We had a character development class, 30 minutes a day in the beginning. We talked about integrity. We talked about kindness. We talked about all these things, acceptance, empathy. And so those were things that I wrote down, all the character traits. And I was like, okay, which song is going to teach them to be empathetic? Which song is going to teach them integrity? Which song is going to teach them acceptance? So the first song I wrote was the name song, That's Okay. And it's something that children in general, particularly POCs, people of color, I think deal with a lot, with having a name that isn't quote unquote normal or isn't, a regular name. Like, oh, that's an odd name. They get these type of weird microaggressions that we just deal with. It's like, oh, call me something else or shorten it to whatever you like, things like that. So I was like, well, why don't we just take an extra 30 seconds and learn the name? And I felt like that was a topic that I could get to with kids very easily. But an adult hearing that would be like, oh, yeah, I can do that too.
If my name's a little hard to pronounce, then that's okay. That's okay. And if you need some help sounding it out, then that's okay. That's okay.
That was the very first song I wrote, and that was what told me I can do this. And that the rest of the album just flew out of me from there. I was like, I got it,
It's so interesting because I think a lot of parents will tell you that, and you maybe believe this as well, maybe you've heard this from family and friends, that the most successful children's programming, be it music, TV, movies, appeals to both kids and adults. It's got to be on multiple levels. Otherwise, the kids aren't going to get it and the parents are going to fall asleep and not want to watch it. So it's interesting to hear you say that, like, you were consciously thinking about that the first time you've ever really done this.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, just because I realized that when I watch stuff with him, the stuff that catches me and gets me really watching, it's got to hit on many levels.
Let me ask you about the song That's a Bully.
And if you know someone that's mean or cruel, even when you tell them that it's not cool, that's a bully. I know that's right. And nobody likes a bully. Yeah, I know that.
It's a song that I suspect, unfortunately, a lot of kids can probably relate to. And I'm wondering, like, what was going through your mind when you were coming up with that and writing it? I mean, obviously, as I said, this is something that happens a lot in schools. And you're telling it sort of almost from the perspective in some sense of like, let's try to understand what the bully is thinking about. And maybe that will help us feel a little empathy for them and maybe get them to stop doing what they're doing.
No, it ain't cool and your style ain't the cleanest if you're picking on others as a way to get even. But try to understand their perspective. Maybe there's a reason why they took that direction. Maybe there is.
That was the hardest song to write. Once I got everything going, that was the last song. Because I had to talk to friends, former colleagues, teachers, parents about what's the resolution. I even read books on bullying, because what is the resolution? And we always say, oh, go and tell somebody, tell a teacher, tell an adult. And that doesn't always work, and that could make it worse for you. But try to understand them. Well, you're empathizing with them while they're punching you in the face or taking your lunch money and taking your food. There isn't an easy catch-all answer. Usually I write songs like I write an essay. So I'm beginning, middle, end. I got my thesis statement, I got all that stuff. And I was like, what is the thesis of this song? And for this one, it took forever because I wanted to approach it from 3 different levels. That's why there's 3 verses. Is that one is all right, here's this kid that's doing this. And what stopped this kid who actually, I knew growing up in middle school was that he saw the effect of bullying because he got bullied.
When a new kid came in, he bullied Omar. He was bigger than him. It was on that day that he understood fully that maybe it's not so cool to be a bully.
Right. Somebody bigger showed up in class.
It had to be a bigger kid or someone showing him, oh, man, you really don't like this, do you? But in that situation, I felt like, wow, confronting their own feelings or, the empathy. All right, now you get to see what these other kids feel like. That worked for him. There could have been 75 verses to this song, to be honest, because I wrote, recorded, re-recorded, scrapped a bunch because they're like I said, I read so many books on this, and there are just it's a spider web of different possible solutions and reasons for bullying. And I don't know if you can solve them all in a 3-minute song,
Did you feel any particular pressure, especially on songs like the one you were talking about, like with names and with bullying? These are pretty serious topics, and kids, I'm imagining, you hope, will listen to them and take them to heart. Was it challenging to make sure you kind of got it right and were giving maybe the right advice or the right message?
Yeah, for sure. Especially with the bullying thing. I felt like I got to do this right because someone's going to have an example where it didn't go that way. And it's well, Mega Ran told me to just, to just understand them. And now they're getting bullied worse. So, yeah, there's a lot of pressure in that. But I took the path of least resistance on a lot of these where if you follow this, hopefully things get a little better before they get worse. That's really where everything came from.
Let me ask you about one other song called Gimme the Fruit. And this was, interestingly, we learned that you do not like prunes. So that's a takeaway from that song. But this was such a fun, upbeat, loud kind of song.
Hey, gonna tell you what I need. I'm a bad pass on the candy, cause I don't want the sweets. It's the only kind of salad that I always wanna eat. Give me an F, give me an R, give me a U and an I and a T. Give me the fruit.
I imagine, was this a situation where you're trying to get your son to eat more healthy?
He loves fruit. You know,
he does.
That's really where it came from, is that I was so happy. One day we were sitting at a restaurant with my mom and my wife and him, and they brought a fruit tray over, and there's berries and things, and he started reaching for the berries, and I was like, you've never had that, you know, but they were colorful. I was like, you don't know what that tastes like. And he just grabbed blueberries, grabbed strawberries, grabbed blackberries, and was just loving them.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, wow, he loves fruit. And so from there, we were like, all right, then let's try mango. Let's try grapes. And he's never turned down a fruit. There's no fruit he doesn't like.
That is amazing.
Yeah, peaches, plums, pears, anything. And so that's when I knew we got to make a fruit song. And that's probably my favorite song on the album because it's so fun, so upbeat. Whitney Payton is on that.
It's tomato or fruit. Yup, it has seeds. Tomato, just give them to me. Potato.
I'm super excited about it. There's like happy horns going off in it. You know, it's just an exciting moment. And it's about fruit. So I really love that song. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah. Do you see this as a one-off? Like, could you imagine doing another kids album?
I could do another one. I got a lot more concepts. But once I got to 12 songs, I just thought 12 was perfect to end. I just wanted it to stop there, but I have other concepts. I love video games, and I didn't really talk about video games. I didn't talk about space travel, like other really cool things that I love that I want to be able to incorporate into these tracks. So maybe.
All right. That is Raheem Jarbo, a.k.a. Mega Ran. Thanks so much for coming in. Congratulations on the new album.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Hey, yo, it's recess. Everybody outside, 'cause it's recess. Yeah, it's time to go play. Now it's recess. My favorite time of the day. That's right, it's recess. Everybody outside, 'cause it's recess. Yeah, it's time to go play. Now it's recess. Been a long day, now I need a break. Yeah, I've been listening to every word my teacher says. All the lectures, all the chapters are complete. Now I'm gonna need a second just to clear my head. Pardon me, 'cause I would like to take a beat. Just a little break, so we can go and play. A little free time, it's a nice day. Maybe we can go outside, feel the nice breeze. It's just what I need. Hold up, freeze. Hey, yo, it's recess. Everybody outside.